You've built a life that works. You're capable, you're thoughtful, you probably have done more inner work than most people you know. And yet in love, you keep ending up with the same kind of person. At first, they feel present, interested, deep, maybe even emotionally open. But then something shifts. They pull back. They seem vague. They take longer to respond. They say they're busy, overwhelmed, not ready, confused, or just bad at relationships. And suddenly your whole system is trying to figure out what went wrong. Did I ask for too much? Are they scared? Are they avoidant? Do they care, but they just don't know how to show it? And before you know it, you are no longer asking, is this relationship right for me? You're actually asking them, how do I get this relationship back to where it was in the beginning? And this is a trap. This is not your usual attachment style video. This is not 5 signs an avoidant person loves you. It's not going to be how to make an avoidant person miss you. It's not about decoding them better. This is about you, because you are the most important person here. And it's not because you are a problem. It's because your patterns are what you have control over. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why avoidant or emotionally unavailable people often feel so magnetic, and why accomplished or self-aware people often get caught up in this loop. And if you want secure love, how you can obtain that and stay away from those relationships where you keep guessing. I'm Allison Verge, relationship intelligence coach with Path to Love Mastery. I help accomplished, self-aware professional singles and couples who are stuck in these patterns stop repeating them and finally obtain the love life they deserve. And this topic matters because avoidant attraction is not just about your attachment style. It's about chemistry. It's about your emotional wiring. It's about what your nervous system has learned to recognize as love. And it's about the part of you that may still believe connection has to be earned. So let's get into it. Here's the first truth. Avoidant people are not always cold. That's a misconception that's out there. That is why this pattern is so confusing. Often they're very warm at the beginning. They can be very charming, deep, interesting, intense, affectionate, even vulnerable. You may have conversations that feel rare. You may feel safe in a way that you've never felt before. You may think, finally, this is the relationship for me. It feels different. But then the distance begins. And it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it can be subtle. A slower reply, a canceled plan, a shift in energy, a strange emotional flatness after a moment of closeness between you two, a sudden need for space right when you think things are getting deeper and better than ever before. And that creates a powerful emotional loop because your brain has 2 versions of this person. You have the version who made you feel chosen. Then you have the version who is pulling away. So you start chasing the first person. You tell yourself, this is who they really are. They're just scared. Well, maybe, but the more important question here is, why does the inconsistent version make you want them more? That is the most important part that we don't want to skip here. When attention comes and goes, your nervous system gets activated. The high feels higher because of the low. The good moments feel more meaningful because you had to wait for them. The text feels more powerful because you were scared that it won't. That is not intimacy. That is your system being activated. It's an adrenaline rush. Intensity is not the same as intimacy. Chemistry is not the same as consistency. A strong pull is not always a sign that someone is right for you. Sometimes it's a sign that an old pattern is being activated. So here's the question that I really want you to sit with. In your last relationship, or maybe even last few, did you feel most connected when you were calm, safe, and consistently chosen? Or did you feel more connected after anxiety, distance, and that sudden feeling of relief? Think about that carefully. Because if the connection felt strongest after distance, then this is a pattern you need to look at. Not a judgment, it's a pattern. And this is where it gets deeper. A lot of people think they're choosing based on attraction, but often attraction is shaped by recognition. Something in you recognizes something in them. Their distance feels familiar to you. Their emotional inconsistency feels familiar as well. Their need to be approached carefully feels familiar. Their inability to fully receive love feels familiar. And familiar can actually feel like chemistry. This doesn't mean that you had a terrible childhood. It doesn't mean you were neglected. It doesn't mean your parents did everything wrong. Sometimes the pattern is more subtle than that. Maybe love was present in your childhood, but your emotional needs were not always welcomed. Maybe you learned to be easy. Maybe you learned not to need too much. Maybe you became the strong one in your family. Maybe you were praised for being independent. That's quite common. Maybe closeness came with pressure, with criticism, with silence, withdrawal, or, emotional predictability. Love is real, but it's not always safe. Connection is possible, but you have to manage it. Closeness is available, but you can't fully relax into it. Maybe that was your dynamic. Then later in life, someone emotionally unavailable shows up and your system says, I know this pattern because it's familiar. And familiar often feels more compelling than the secure. Secure may feel a little too steady at first, too simple, too available, and too calm. And for someone used to earning love, calm can feel boring. That's a big one. Probably one of the main reasons we feel it's boring. Consistency can feel like a lack of chemistry. Availability can feel a little suspicious. And that's why people say there's no spark, when what they really mean is my nervous system is not being activated. That distinction is really important and it changes everything. Here's the second major pattern. Empathy can become a trap. Many people attract avoidant partners who are not careless. They're often deeply emotionally intelligent. They see beneath the behavior. They understand trauma. They understand fear. They understand why someone might be pulling away. So when a person becomes inconsistent, they do not immediately say, this does not work for me. They say, they're just scared. They've just been hurt before. They just don't know how to receive. They need patience. They're not used to someone like me. They just need to feel safe. That's all. And sometimes those things may be true, but the truth is not the same as compatibility. A person can have real wounds and still be unavailable. A person can care about you and still not be capable of building a relationship with you. A person can have potential and still be a poor choice in your life. That is where many self-aware people lose themselves. They become loyal to the explanation. They become loyal to the potential. They try to fix people. They become loyal to the version of the person they saw at the very beginning. And they stop being loyal to their own emotional reality and their own emotional well-being. You start asking, how do I make them feel safe? How do I communicate better? How do I not trigger them? How do I show them I am different? And maybe they're not bad questions, but there is a better question to ask. What is this relationship requiring me to abandon in myself? Because if you have to become smaller, quieter, more patient to then feels honest or less direct, less needy, less alive, less clear, just not authentic to get somebody to love you, it's not right. You're negotiating with that distance that's out there, and that gets exhausting, and it's just not going to work. So let's name the deeper block going on here. For many people, the avoidant attraction pattern is one built on a hidden belief that love is something I have to earn. Not consciously. You probably don't wake up and say, oh, I want to earn love today. But the pattern shows up in the behavior. You overfunction, you over-explain, and you study them. You adapt. You adapt to their needs. You become patient with things that hurt. You try to be the exception. You try to love them into readiness. You turn their inconsistency into a mission. And because you are capable, you think that you can solve it. That is especially true for people who are accomplished in other areas of life. You're used to effort creating results, to figuring out anything. You're used to being competent. You're used to just being able to snap your fingers and making it work. You're used to solving complex problems. So when love becomes uncertain like this, your instinct is not to leave. Your instinct is to work harder. But relationships are not won through emotionally overfunctioning. You do not become chosen by becoming more useful. You don't create intimacy by managing someone else's fear. And you don't build secure love by proving you are low maintenance or just enough to be kept. Secure love requires two available people who are fighting for their own needs. Not one aware person, one person being carefully managed. That's a lifetime of misery. I'm going to use a composite example here because I see this pattern so often. Imagine a woman who has built a genuinely strong life. She's smart, warm, successful, reflective, and emotionally deep. She has friends who trust her, people who come to her for advice. She's done the work. Now she's met someone who seems different. He's really attentive at first. The connection feels unusually strong and passionate. He says things that make her believe he's ready for something real. Then after a few weeks or months, his energy starts to change. He's still kind sometimes. He still sends enough signals to keep her believing that something's possible. She still feels that hope. But he stops moving closer. He avoids these clear conversations, and he says he doesn't want the pressure. He pulls away after things get really close. He acts like commitment is caging him in. And she starts trying to understand him and what is going on. She reads all about avoidant attachment patterns, looking it up on YouTube. She becomes extra careful with her words with him. She lowers her expectations. She waits for him to feel safe. And eventually she says, "What's wrong with me? Why do I keep choosing this?" The answer is not, "You are broken." The answer is something in this dynamic matches an old emotional wound or assignment that was given from childhood. The assignment might be, I have to earn love or stay chosen. I don't need too much. I have to prove that I'm safe. I have to be patient enough to be loved. I have to win over an unavailable one. That is the part that needs to change. Not just the person you date, but the whole assignment, the pattern underneath it all. So what do you do? Not theory here. We're talking, what do you do in real life here? So here are 3 starting points. First, I want you to stop asking only whether they like you. Start asking whether their way of relating works for you. This is a major shift because the anxious part of you wants proof of their feelings. But do they care? Are they scared? Will they come back? Do they mean it? The even more mature question to ask here is this dynamic good for my emotional health? Can I truly be myself here? Can I speak clearly? Do I feel safe? And I don't mean that in that respect. I just mean, do I feel at peace? Can I trust the direction of this relationship? Do their actions create stability or confusion? Feelings are not enough. Consistency is what matters. Second, I want you to watch what happens in your body, because your body often tells you the truth before your mind will admit it. Do you feel calm around them? Or do you feel really activated, nervous? Do you feel grounded after seeing them? Or are you then analyzing everything you did and said? Maybe I shouldn't have said this. Oh my gosh, are you doing that? Because that's not a way you want to live. Do you feel more like yourself or less like yourself? Do you feel chosen? Like they truly chose you for who you are? Or do you feel like you're auditioning for some play for the key role? This is all key data that you need to look at, and don't ignore it. Third, I want you to practice choosing availability before chemistry. It doesn't mean dating someone that you're not attracted to. I believe in attraction more than anyone. It means giving your system time to recognize a different kind of attraction. Steady does not have to mean boring. Kind does not mean weak. Available does not mean less exciting. Sometimes secure love feels unfamiliar before it feels attractive. So when someone is consistent, emotionally present, and clear, notice whether you dismiss them too quickly. Ask, am I really not attracted? Or is it just that I have maybe a deeper issue going on? I'm not activated. These are different kind of questions with answers. The goal here is not to hate, avoidant people. The goal is not to diagnose every person who pulls away either. The goal is not to become cold, guarded, or hyper independent. The goal is to stop organizing your love life around unavailable people. This means you stop making distance more interesting than consistency. You stop making potential more important than behavior. You stop making someone's wounds more important than your old needs. You stop treating anxiety as evidence of love, and you start building a new standard. I do not chase clarity. I do not audition for consistency. I do not confuse intensity for intimacy. I do not abandon myself to keep someone close. That is not bitterness. That is self-trust. That is truly having respect for yourself and putting your own needs first, which is so important. If this brought something up in you, I want you to start with my free secret love block quiz. It'll help you see the pattern that may be running your love life right now. And if you want practical tools and support in a more structured way, you should consider joining my Love Mastery IQ waitlist. This is where I'm building the deeper system for people who are ready to stop repeating those same relationship loop patterns and start creating the secure connection they so desire without losing themselves. Both links are in the comments below. And before you go, take this question with you. Are you attracted to the person, or are you attracted to the old pattern? The answer truly matters. I'll see you in the next video.